So, hi, good morning, good afternoon to Neil, because we know Neil's in the other end of the world, in over in Australia. My name's David, Dave Holland, and my guests for the first in the series of Parallels podcast are Claudia Neumeister, the world's leading matchmaker based out of Luxembourg in Germany, and Dr. Neil Hillman, now based in Australia, formerly from the UK, who's one of the leading audio post-production engineers, but sound specialists in the world. The purpose of this conversation we're having really is to explore the common threads that we find between our entrepreneurial journey, the challenges we face, the fun we have, how we sort of keep our sanity as well, and just to sort of bring into the open that really, for most of us, we're on a very similar journey, regardless of what we do. So please grab a coffee, sit back, relax, listen up, and listen to the stories of these two fabulous people. So, Claudia, Neil, welcome. Good to see you both. Thank you for taking your time to jump on this. Claudia, can I just sort of pounce on you first? Just give us a summary of your backstory. I know it's very intriguing, but where did you start? Where did you go, and how did you sort of end up doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, you said earlier I should tell it in 60 seconds, which is a little bit difficult. But um, so born and raised in Germany, educated in the UK, and then I went as a young woman. I went to the former Eastern Bloc. And lived and worked there. Most of my time I spent in Hungary, but I was also living in Poland, a long time in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Then got a call from Luxembourg that Amazon were looking for somebody to lead Kindle recruitment, and yeah, I loved the Kindle and took the job, and this is how I got to Luxembourg. Stayed with Amazon for a couple of years. And then, as somebody in Luxembourg said, Darren Robinson, I made the best decision I never made. I was made redundant.
Right.
And this was also came at a time when I felt I can't take it any longer. I just can't. And I felt like I didn't own my life. I didn't own my time. And I went back to university, got a degree in organizational psychology, and originally wanted to do leadership training, so more of what you're doing, Dave. But in the back of my mind, there was this idea of matching people, and that has to do with my own biography. I was single until the age of 45, and I always had relationships, but I've been through this whole single journey, online dating, etc., etc. I've been through it, and I always thought, coming from headhunting, I thought, oh, how interesting it would be to bring two people together who you know. So if there's somebody in the middle who knows both people, bring them together. And this is what I truly enjoy. I enjoy bringing people together. Also, what struck me, but there are these sentences people say to you, and something sticks. And a friend of mine runs his own business. He's a doctor, and he said, "I'm working for myself." And I thought, oh, working for myself, that sounds good.
Yes.
And yeah, and then I had an inspiring moment when I really had this idea of doing matchmaking business, and then Lux Dates was founded, and that was 7 years ago. So
Wow.
that's it in a nutshell.
Fabulous. Okay, I think I think you had this. We all have done this, and Neil, you'll give your background in a second. We have this thing, called I think it's called an entrepreneurial seizure. I think that comes from the E Myth from memory, where and for me as well, and I see this a lot that we go from working for an idiot that we don't respect and trust and like in a company or a business somewhere, and then we start working for a complete psychopath because then we're working for ourselves, and it does sound and feel very good, but sometimes it's not quite as bright and shiny as it could be. But anyway, so fabulous, Claudia. Thank you, excellent. Um, Dr. Neil Hillman, could you give us your backstory? I know we have similar roots from engineering, but please
We
give us a
do.
heads up.
We do. We absolutely do. And my academic work has really come in the sort of second half of my working career.
Yeah.
I use the term Dr. Neil Hillman usually at the start of when I'm giving talks and what have you, and that's not for self-aggrandizement. It's actually just to reflect on the seriousness of the topic and the subject that I'm so passionate about, which is sound, and which is very much the underdog. We talk about, sound is 50% of the product, but in the industry that I work, film and television, that is absolutely not the case. So
Mm,
I'm evangelical about trying to take people to get people to take sound seriously and to understand that in terms of bang for your buck, this is the place to be because
mhm,
this is where for 10% of a film's budget, you can get 80% of the emotional engagement of the audience. So, but background, we are very, very similar, Dave, you and I. We left school at 16. Both of us, I think, felt that we didn't want to end our education, but we just didn't want to stay in the school
mm,
system.
yeah.
I did a mechanical and electrical engineering apprenticeship with an American machine tool company called Cincinnati Millicron, which was a remarkable opportunity to get trained. I rather hated being in a factory, I have to I have to say. So I did mechanical and electrical engineering in the factory, and I did day release from during my apprenticeship, and I actually tagged on an extra year to my apprenticeship,
Mhm,
and I was able to do a foundation degree. So my first degree is in electronics. Much later, um, 2017 was when I got my doctorate. So there's a big gap between when I got my first degree and when my undergraduate degree and when I got my doctorate. So I trained in electronics at university. I got involved with university radio. I fell completely in love with the medium. I couldn't get a job at that time. This was the early 80s. I couldn't get a job in radio, but I did manage to get a job in television. I was initially taken on in the camera department, but I just turned up at the sound. I didn't want to be in cameras. I worked in the sound department there. And very happily, for 8 years, I had a tremendous training there in all aspects of broadcast and film sound because we were still shooting a lot of film at the time.
mhm,
And that stood me in great stead and has stood me in great stead for the rest of my career. Nobody told me that I had to specialize in one particular area of sound, so I specialized in all of it.
mhm,
And it's just been keeping several baskets going as to when one gets quiet, then I'll go into another one and what have you. I reluctantly went freelance in 1990,
mhm,
which was just before a big bang in the film and television industry when everybody was sacked. And we could see it coming, or I could see it coming. And a couple of things came together at the same time. So I went freelance at that time and got a head start. And so for the next 10 years, worked mainly for the BBC in a freelance capacity, mainly as a location sound recordist, and traveled extensively all around the world, east, west, you know, at
wow,
license payer's expense. So that was marvelous. Um, then in the so that was the 90s. In the 2000s, as you know, when we first started working together, I founded the Audio Suite,
mhm,
um, and that sort of leads on to the question that you I know you're going to ask about why we started our own business. Is it
yeah,
okay if I go just roll straight
yeah,
into that?
please, absolutely, yeah,
Um,
I'm intrigued, yeah.
so at the time in the 90s, I was everywhere around the world, and I got small children. I kind of liked the idea of being back at home after 10 years
Mhm,
because the children were starting to grow and what have you, and I didn't really want to miss them growing up. So and my wife at the time encouraged me to get a staff job. I've been freelance and really quite happy being freelance and
yeah,
relatively successful at it. Um, but she was very uncomfortable. We had a large mortgage at the time, three small children, and encouraged me to get a staff job. I didn't feel that comfortable in a staff job because I felt at
Mhm.
any moment a hand was going to come onto my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain that actually I was probably more vulnerable by being in a staff job than ever I was by being freelance.
Mhm.
Um, sure enough, the company that I was working at, by this time I was the head of sound
Mhm.
of a post production company. The company I was working for had started an audio department, and after 2 years, the company had been bought and sold twice, and I felt, very uncomfortable with that. So I tried a management buyout. I tried to save my department from the next sale that was going on. There was going to be a fire sale. I was unsuccessful with that, and so I decided that actually, staff employment wasn't for me. I needed to do my own thing. Now,
Yeah.
something very significant had happened during that time, during those 2 years, and that was I spent a year working with on and off with the RAF Red Arrows,
Mhm.
and they are absolutely committed to excellence in everything that they do.
Mhm.
So that year that we spent making 4 1-hour documentaries, I did the location recording, and then I would come back and I would do the sound editing and mixing of those programs. Had a profound effect on me is because I realized that I couldn't cope with people who would accept low
Mhm.
quality. It was
Yeah.
just I couldn't deal with it. So when the opportunity came to start my own company, it was I need to do this. I need to have it running how it should be run. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to go back once you've experienced what it is to um, sort of have integrity in the product that you're working on. So the audio, that's how the audio suite came about. And well, we've been going for 23 years. We've kind of morphed a few times. We're a bit like the sort of Liverpool winning team of the 1970s. We're now at the Klopp stage. We haven't got Bill Shankly at the helm. We've got somebody else there, but we've sort of had a steady hand on the tiller over those 23 years, and we've had to change direction. And I'm in the process of changing direction again, still within the confines of the audio suite.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's the backstory in a nutshell.
Fabulous, thank you. And I think interesting and this I think applies to all us three certainly, but for other people listening, I guess, when we get that kick, either we are made redundant or we see something coming, or and for me, it was the company I was in. We were selling it on, and it was going to definitely come to an end. It was a choice to make something. What was your sort of emotional state at that point? Was it fear? Was it excitement? Was it determination? What was going through your mind? Because it's a big leap. A lot of people don't make this leap to go from, and I take your point there, not exactly safe employment, but what appears to be safe, secure employment, and we get kicked out of it. So, I mean, Claudia, for you, what was your sort of emotional, I'd say emotional state, but what was going through your mind at the time?
When I was made redundant, it hurt.
Yeah.
It was extremely painful. And this studying organizational psychology was almost therapy. So um, I worked through this, and I saw the systemic elements that were at play, and really it was like therapy, and it kind of strengthened me.
Mm.
I remember this moment, extreme pain, but also I knew that it was the start of something new. I didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
but I knew it's the start of something new, and that it will be good.
Yeah.
It's painful right now and it sucks, but it will be good. And then when I decided to start the company, and I had a similar impression as you, Neil, on employment. It's not secure. It is
Absolutely.
not secure. That this is it's just this is a fantasy that people are living in when they're employed. They're thinking it's secure. No, um, it may be that you get a severance payment. That is the only that is the only possible security that you have. But so once I had figured that out, and I thought, well, I have to work. Might as well work for myself. And then I um, I looked at the risks, I looked at the costs involved, and I thought, okay, I can manage this.
Yeah.
And I had this idea that from Jeff Bezos talks about it all the time when he about how he started Amazon. And it's a theme from a novel, The Remains of the Day. So you project yourself forward to 80 years old and look back on your life, and then you think about, okay, what do I regret? And I thought I would regret not trying. I would certainly regret that, not trying. I wouldn't regret having failed, but not trying. And then and that kind of gave me the inner strength to start the company. And I thought, Jesus, if it fails, it fails. Then it's at least I tried, and I will always get a job. I will always, there's always freelance work, and so why not try? So I went into the actual entrepreneurship with a sense of strength.
Hmm.
I had the risks analyzed, and the interesting thing was when once I made that decision, things were falling into place
Hmm.
that made it easy for me.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, interesting. And Neil, for you, I mean, you a similar sort of story, I guess. But what was your say mindset? How are you approaching this shift?
Well, I suppose now I look back on it as sort of optimistic naivety, but that just this real driving force that the quality of work that I wanted to work on, I
Mm,
felt that I could only get by going out and getting that work myself.
mm,
I was never going to go and work on a Hollywood movie or contribute
mm,
to a Hollywood movie by staying where I was. And I'd got really powerful ambitions for what I wanted to do professionally.
yeah,
I really felt that it was my calling, that audio and working in audio was something that I really wanted to push as far as I possibly could. And it would be impossible to do that, being based in Birmingham and working within an organization. That just wouldn't happen. I had to do that. But also there was a sense of self-determination. I
hmm,
realized that I really wanted to do that when I was freelance. I mean, I'd only gone back into staff employment for 2 years. I'd thoroughly enjoyed my time at Central, but I'd seen the profound effect of redundancy. I don't think that people, until they've experienced it, I totally agree with you, Claudia. I mean, I've always been in a position where I've jumped rather than been pushed.
mm,
But the effect on colleagues was profound. I mean, enormous psychological damage that's done to their feeling of self-worth and what have you. And I didn't want to be in that position. At Cincinnati, I'd escaped it. For the very first time in their history, they'd been having redundancies, and I thought, I'm not hanging around here. I'm young. I can go and do some stuff. So I was 22 when I left Cincinnati and joined Central, so that was fine. Then Central came, sort of so about 8 years later, there was some more round of redundancies, and you could feel it in the air. And I thought, no, I'm not going to hang around for this. I'm going to
mm,
go. And so each time I've sort of taken the initiative, I suppose, and just seen the writing on the wall, accepted the inevitable, and a bit of a lean in attitude, if you like, sort of,
mm,
well,
yeah,
let's just get stuck in, and if this is what we've got to do, let's get on. Um, I've also had this strange, I don't know how to explain it really, but this strange feeling that providing I do the right thing, providing my intention and my integrity and my authenticity and if you like, I'd wrap it up in the term karma. So long
yeah,
as I'm doing something that is karmically right, the universe won't see me and my children starve. Now,
mm,
that's kind of easy during the day when the sun's shining and all that sort of stuff. It's more difficult, and we've spoken at length. You and I have spoken at length about the wee small hours when the doubts start creeping in and what have
yeah,
you. But I think I was bullish about it. I felt confident in my own technical skills. I realized that my technical skills weren't going to be enough. I needed some business skills as well. And that's why you and I started working together in the first place. And we've kind of stuck around ever since.
can't shake each other off now, can we? This,
Yeah, exactly.
but I think again, I think just for me, and I think observation wise, the fear of making the leap or the fear of starting something new, I think that evaporates into determination when we actually make that. It's clever. You make the decision and you commit. You write the check, and then there's no place for fear. It's an activity and action, and away we go. I think the best way to overcome the fear is to, if you like, get on with it. I think to a certain extent. Watching and thinking about it is a very scary place to be. You've got to make the leap. So,
Yeah,
so overall, sorry, Claudia.
and I always said you have to take fear out of the equation. You just
Yeah,
have to take it out. You need to look at the equation from a cold analytical point of view. Take fear out. Keep the passion in, but
yeah,
also keep the passion at check,
sure.
at bay. Don't be overly passionate and see things through rosy eyes. So you need
Mm,
to do your market research. What you're doing, is that even wanted?
yeah.
And how do you make it work? But once you have that, you just need to cross the Rubicon.
Away you go.
I
Exactly.
would
Just
say that
keep on pushing.
I would say that on reflection, one of the things that I've had to do because we've been quite it's now much easier, but it was a very capital intensive industry
Yeah.
when we first started the audio studios. You'll probably remember our studios um, were about £100,000 each. Our first one cost about that, and then we added on two others, and we grew and what have you. Um, so I've always had that sort of consideration that I need to be careful because most of the time it was all guaranteed against my home.
Mm,
And of course, that is uh, to be avoided at all costs. But
yeah.
when you're starting, it's just very difficult. But I would say now, on reflection, that it made me take conservative decisions in business that
Mm,
I probably could have been more not so much flamboyant, but I think a little bit more adventurous. We could have seen an opportunity and gone for it. And a few times, we've had the conversation, Dave, where well, I don't know, on balance, is it worth betting the ranch? Well, no, it's not. Um, and it was frustrating that I would see companies who their managing directors weren't betting their own money. When they left uh, the breakfast table in the morning and said goodbye to their children. It wasn't the home that was at stake each time. So where possible, if it is possible, and if you have a business where there's no um, sort of heavy capital commitment,
mm,
then be bold, be
yeah.
really bold about what you do. I think the bolder that you are, obviously with due diligence, but I think the bolder that you are, I think fortune favors the brave. I think it's a good saying.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I think this shooting for for gold or the big goal or the big target or the number one, whatever it is. And it came to me. I may have mentioned this story, but we were when we lived over in the US. We would go out to we were in Vegas, going to the casinos and not gambling, just people watching. Because we were locals, used to get to know the croupiers and the servers and this sort of thing. And they used to fly in for the weekend. They were also students from LA. This sort of they fly in for the weekend, serve on the tables, then go home, make a few $100, and that was it. And these are very attractive guys and gals. I remember saying to them, talking to them, saying, "Well, you must get all sorts of offers of dates and dinner and all sorts of things." And almost exclusively, they said, "No, we don't. Nobody approaches us because we're sort of too far extreme. We're too, attractive, good-looking, tall, willowy, whatever. The guys as well." And they said, "Well, because we're classic 10 out of 10, nobody thinks they qualify to take us out for dinner." And it struck me, and I thought, wow, what are we missing in business? Do we settle for the 6 and 7 opportunities maybe? Whereas actually the tens are out there and nobody's chasing them because everybody thinks the same
Absolutely.
way. That's not for us. So
Absolutely.
I'll play safe. I'll play secure. And I think it's an interesting point you make when your house is riding on it, you tend to play safe. You hedge your bets. Whereas if you weren't, maybe there was a 9 or 10 that maybe we could have gone for. That applies to all of us, I think. So interesting stuff. So, in terms of, I mean, business, so you see, if you look on TikTok and LinkedIn, Facebook, owning your own business is all fun, excitement, cappuccinos, private jets, and it's just amazing. And we know we peel away that layer. It's not every day is like that. In terms of the biggest sort of challenges that you think you've either faced or overcome, or the ongoing challenge and frustration as a business owner, What would that be? I'm not trying to sort of bottle it up a little bit, but what's the number one sort of frustration challenge you face on an ongoing basis? I mean, Neil, for you, I'll jump back on you for that one, maybe.
I suppose for me, one of the tasks that we have to do is to educate our clients as to
Yeah,
what it is that they need, as
yeah,
opposed to what they think they want,
yeah,
and that can be a bit of a battle, really. Because if you're not careful, you can appear as if you're rather arrogant and telling them what they need and what have
yeah,
you. On the other hand, we are the specialists, and if you went to a surgeon and the surgeon said, "Well, I've looked at your X-rays and I can see that this is the best course of treatment for you,"
yes, yeah,
um, you may ask for a second opinion, but
yeah,
generally you trust that this person is acting in your best interests.
yeah,
Um, and we're in an industry where, truthfully, people know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. So, the if the column of the Excel spreadsheet is starting to get too large, instead of sort of thinking, well, hang on a minute, that actually is extremely good value. That can really help us, and we can be creative and take some money from here. Where that doesn't happen at all. It's very siloed. This is what we have in mind, and it's mutually exclusive to the quality of the end product.
mm,
I'm passionate about this. That the quality of the end product um, is diminishing. So
yeah,
you're now watching Netflix with the subtitles on. How can that possibly be when we have the most incredible digital technology available to us? And I think about how we used to work in the 1980s and how people before me worked in the 70s.
mm,
And I promise you, if you listen to a Kojak from the 1970s, it will be clearer than some of the current offerings on Netflix.
wow,
What's annoying is that's not consistent. It's
mm,
inconsistent. So that proves that it can be done.
yeah,
And I think that proves from a point that you can see where money has been saved or has been scrimped or the incorrect allocation of resources has gone into the audio post production. Audio post production is the very last stage of a very long, tiring, drawn out production process. Um, I think next to car manufacturing, I can't think of a more sort of disjointed, collaborative enterprise that brings people from all over the world, components from all over the world, brings them together, creates a product, and then they disperse around the
mm,
world. So
yeah,
there's great similarities there. But if you think about a car from the 1970s, or think about an Austin Allegro, and if you were to think of
I prefer
something
not
that
to, but anyway,
no, no, but for the purpose of this illustration, it's perfect. Think about an Austin Allegro, and if you
mm,
think of what would be a similar kind of vehicle now, a similar priced vehicle, I don't know, just think of anything, I don't know, a Golf, a Polo,
golf,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
golf, yeah,
Um, the difference in quality now is extraordinary. The
yeah,
technology that is incorporated in that motor vehicle is quite extraordinary.
mm,
Can we say the same about our television programs after we've made quantum leaps in the way in
mm,
which we produce film? Well, no, you can't.
mm,
The sound is actually worse in many cases than it was
mm,
30 or 40 years ago. I don't understand. As an engineer, I was taught that we would innovate, we would change things if it improved things, if it
yeah.
improved the efficiency of it, if it made it more robust, if it made it cheaper, but didn't compromise the quality. I don't know. So I find myself at a bit of a log jam with the industry at the moment.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you. Claudia, for you, the biggest ongoing frustration challenge, if there are any, of course.
None, of course, no. For me, the biggest challenge is, I think, um, the reality check that I
Mm,
need to do with clients. And Neil, what you said in the beginning that what clients want may not always be the best, and we have to educate the market. I can subscribe to that 100%. So this is something that me and my colleagues in the matchmaking industry do. We are not necessarily only matchmakers. We are educators about the market. And something that I have observed with online dating is it seems there is psychosis almost amongst singles. It's all very negative, and there's lots of scammers, etc. So the whole idea of finding somebody has become um, extraordinary. So
Mm.
the people I see a lot, they have very high expectations of a future partner because it has to be perfect,
Yeah.
like the pop song. And the reality is, if you're with somebody, it's never perfect. Yeah, you make it work, and this is what I'm trying to educate my clients and the general audience about is just get real,
Yes.
people. The person that you want may not want you
Yeah.
for various reasons. So go out into the real world, meet real people. Don't spend time online chatting to fantasy uh, people, but meet real people. And I think the loneliness that we're experiencing, we live in a super connected world,
Yeah.
but at the same time we have loneliness as a real factor, and not only in the older generation and whatever 60, 70 plus, but also in the younger generation. And it's because people don't don't connect. They may go out
Mm.
to events, to bars, to whatever, but they don't connect. And that's a pity. And I think we all come from a time where when you went on a date, there was no Google. You couldn't
Absolutely.
Google the
Yes.
person. There was no internet, and you
Right.
just went and met with the person, and that either it was okay or it wasn't, but there was a different vibe, and the expectations were different. So I think my biggest challenge is really educating the market.
Yeah, interesting. I think that, yeah, I think again, I see this for for we do as well. Is the for me, I think it was the what I didn't realize in this business, as opposed to maybe some of the other companies I was running before. I mean, we ran our own companies as well, but this one was the relentless visibility marketing activity has to be done on a continuous basis because it just has to be. It's like a creeping barrage all the time. And okay, we've got used to it, we deal with it, it's all good. I know we get it, but that I think is that continuous, repeat and visibility, being on stage, being light, bright, and engaging, and all that sort of thing. And we have to be on stage all the time, and that can be pretty draining, because we are all very light, bright, and entertaining and engaging,
Mm.
but whew, it's pretty hard work to do it all the time. So
When,
given all this, if you like, in the mix, because you speak to people who run their own company, and people say to me, it's okay for you. You run your own business, you choose your own hours, and this sort of thing. And we go, and on a superficial level, we go, yeah, you know what we do? We choose our own hours. We work, 2.5 days a week. It's just perfect. In reality, we know it's not quite like that. And we're working whilst not 24/7, but we're thinking, we're creating, we're strategizing, we're worrying, we're waking at 3 in the morning. How do you keep, with all that going on, how do you keep your sanity? I don't like the word balance, but how do you keep it all together? How do you keep life, family, social, everything else going on? How do you keep that together? How do you keep that, the sanity and balance there? Claudia, how do you handle that?
Switch off. Have always had the ability, even as a small child, to kind of immerse myself into something completely different. I do keep business hours.
Yeah,
My weekends, I need them. I need that time to recharge, be with my dog and my husband, and do things. And I I also do other things.
yeah,
I'm active in the Luxembourgish business community. So I'm not only, which is also you know marketing and visibility and etc. But I also do other things, and that
yeah.
helps me stay where I'm. And I'm not saying I don't have these moments. I do.
No, sure.
We 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 all do. And Dave, you have seen me at some of my lowest points, and you have been really a rock star. Great
Yeah.
help in keeping me keeping me balanced. But yeah, setting boundaries is
Absolutely. And
important.
I think as well, interest, just a little side note, I'm interested you said at weekends you spend time with you mentioned the dog first, and that's anything reading into that, but your dog and your husband, the dog came first. And we know, I mean, Deezer comes to our workshops now, which is fabulous. He is a gorgeous, gorgeous creature. And so is your husband, of course, but still. But no, I think ring fencing some of the time and having outside in interests and pursuits or hobbies and things like that. We've got this cottage renovation going on.
Hmm.
I dig out the drum kit from time to time, and
Hmm.
you've got to have this alternative focus. I
Yeah.
think that helps to keep us sane. Neil, I know for you, I know you're going to talk about Baywatch now, but go on. How do you handle this? How do you keep your sanity and all that you get up to down there in fabulous Brisbane, Gold Coast area?
Well, Baywatch is that you're hinting that I run up and down the beach in budgie smugglers. I'm
Too
actually a
much
Coast
detail,
Guard. I'm a
Governor. Too much
volunteer
detail.
Coast Guard. I'm a volunteer Coast Guard, so I get to play on boats at somebody else's expense, which that comes out of being in Brisbane and actually being in Australia, um, where really we have such natural disasters so regularly that you kind of need to be signed up to be helping in some way, shape, or form. So, Coast Guard is something I've sailed for a good number of years, and that was a logical thing for me to do when we moved here to join a volunteer Coast Guard. So that's what I do, and I enjoy that very much. And of course, you leave your troubles on the shore because you need to be concentrating on what you're concentrating on when you do that.
Absolutely.
I motorcycle as well, so that's also a way that I have to concentrate on the road. I can't think about anything else other than motorcycling. But I would say that I think that the last, certainly since we've come to Australia, it's been a huge cultural shock for me work-wise because
Mm.
we kept the studios going in the UK, so the audio suite was just ticking along just as it would do normally, taking post-production work. But when I came here, I started to do other elements of what my skill set are, and so I was mixing outside broadcast sport. So that's at weekends. So it's a bit like a chef, really, that when most people are relaxing and taking their leisure time,
Yeah,
you're actually
you're on it.
working. Um, and with the studios working as well, it meant that I was working during the week and also working at the weekend. So I've been managing on top of 42 years of being in the industry at quite a quite a reasonable level.
Yeah.
Managing burnout, really, being very aware of burnout, what it looks like, what it feels like, and it's been tough, to be perfectly honest with you. It's really
Yeah.
needed some tough decisions to say, um, you know, this isn't gonna this isn't gonna work because
Sure.
in the last 12 months I've been away from home 7.5 months, and actually I didn't come to Brisbane to be in a place which is
No.
beautiful one the next. So I recently spent 3.5 months in Fiji,
Mm.
um, working on a program that was technically very satisfying, but did it feed my soul? Not much.
Mm.
That was two series of Love Island. So
Yeah.
technically, that was enjoyable. How do you switch off there? Well, 24/7, I'm away from home and I
Mm.
was
Yeah.
working 12-hour shifts plus. So it's pretty much like doing a radio show, a breakfast show. So I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would then be at work from 6 a.m. Until 6 p.m. and then traveling home. And that was solid for 3 months. So that's hard going. So I'm not quite sure what you hang on to there. Certainly, the thought of the money is not the thing that keeps you warm and cozy. You just have to
No.
hang on to something else. That we have a purpose for this. That when we finish this, we'll do something else. So that's
Yeah.
a challenge that I'm facing now, and I feel as if having faced that prospect of burning out, which I'm sure I'm very close to or have been close to,
Mm.
but sort of recognizing it,
Yeah.
then things should settle down. But it's interesting. Claudia and I have spoken before about we're both in the emotion business because,
Yes.
of course, my academic work is human emotions. So my
Mm.
PhD was in sound design using human emotions, and so what I determined from my PhD and what I create and what I teach and what my book is about is almost like a Jedi mind trick, so that people, whether they're whether they're in corporate video or whether they're making movies, how we evoke emotions in an audience to give a much greater impact to the pictures that we're seeing. I'm not saying that sound is
Sure.
more important than pictures, or pictures are more important than sound. They are married together. But the emotional experience of watching a film, 80% of it comes, as I said earlier, comes from the sound. Now,
Yeah.
similarly, in corporate video, which is a place where you find people penny pinching as much as they possibly can, um, often that's where you need to be touching people's emotions much more than something where you've got
Mm.
multi-million budget and you've got fantastic cameras and fantastic actors. Because often with corporate video, you're trying to um, convey a message that the audience don't necessarily want to hear.
Mm.
So we do have a method, and that's what I teach, of how we can tap into people's emotion to make their experience more memorable,
Mm.
and to give it more impact, which often is what you need. The interesting thing, I think, Claudia, of where we come together, there's a chap called Gary Brecker, who you may be interested to look up. He's a human biologist. And for the last 15 years, he's been studying human frequencies, the frequencies that we emit. And he puts people into a Faraday cage where your mobile phone won't work or anything like that. So you're completely isolated. So the frequencies that he measures are genuinely from your brain, or radiated from the human body. And we would think that love would be the highest frequency, because we know how we feel where we're in love, and love is all you need, and that's a great thing. But he's been able to determine a whole range of emotions, and he can tell from the frequency that we emit whether someone is angry, whether they're sad, all those kind of emotions. But do you know what? 400 times greater than love is authenticity. Authenticity. It's really, really interesting. And then the other thing that he didn't find, but on reading him, I thought he made a great point, and that was that when there are two wavelengths of equal length and they meet, the size of their frequency doubles. Now, Newton and Einstein had a little dabble and couldn't explain what that was, but it certainly gives a new meaning to, if you're on the same wavelength as someone.
Mhm.
When you
Yeah.
meet someone and you have a conversation with them, you're energized by them, and you
Yeah.
find we just clicked. We just clicked.
Mm.
Well, maybe that's what that is. So it's kind of interesting. So
I think,
authenticity is the highest possible frequency.
wow.
I
And I think
find that really interesting. Sorry, you go
no,
ahead,
I was
Dave.
just going to say, I think we're all, as you said, I think we're all, I think for anybody in business, I think one of the things that people miss is that whether they have a product or a service or whatever it is, but a lot of people are involved in the selling or pitching or delivering an invisible, intangible service. You can't pick it up, taste and touch it. And people do judge or they do attract based on the emotional context. And I think that whether
Mm.
we call it liking and trusting or being on the same wavelength or whatever it is, I think that's something we have to all be very aware of, that in order to be, and I use the word attractive in a structured way, to attract that which we want to have, our energy has got to be at a sort of frequency and level that is attractive to other people as well. So, sorry, Claudia, yeah, sorry, go on. I was just dipping
No,
in.
and for me, I meet in matchmaking. I meet all my clients in person, and
Yeah.
and I get asked, so do you do psychological tests and da da da, and I did in the beginning. I had
Mhm.
a small psychological test that I would give people, but for me, I need to be in the same room with
Yeah.
people. I need to feel them. I need to feel the energy, and also the outlook that they have on life.
Mhm.
How do they think about risk? Where do they want
Yeah.
to be in their lives? And I'm very susceptible to feeling people. I always have
Absolutely.
been. So that is my measure.
Yeah.
And authenticity is something, that can be learned.
Mm.
It's there's a method how you can bring all the different voices inside you to create a symphony and hear them. But we also tend to think that authenticity is they're all the good guys, all the good guys and girls, they're all authentic. No, but if you're mean, probably you're being authentic.
Yeah.
There's also people
Unfortunately,
out
yeah.
there who are authentic, but that is who they are. They're just not nice people.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really important for me to feel people, and then um, I have this matchmakers um, vibe. And
Mm.
a lot of my colleagues do too, where we think, oh, that those people would be great, and that is why I'm not always very happy when people come with a long list of what that partner should be,
Yeah.
and um, when I think, okay, well, using those criteria hasn't served me well in the past. So how about we try something different? I may have a great person, and then they say, oh, it's too young, too old, too this, to that. And I thought, just meet and see how you get on. If you don't get on, okay, fine. No, I don't even count that introduction,
Yeah.
but it's a forgotten trait. Or it's a forgotten, yeah, quality
Absolutely.
that the vibes we emit.
I think I know I'm doing some work with a lady who's from the Netherlands, Dutch lady, and a phrase that she used, and I'm assuming this is a Dutch phrase that was tripped or flipped over into English, and she would talk about meeting people, and she used a phrase that I actually checked in with her about it, as of getting the sense of smell of somebody.
Yeah,
And I thought, wow, that's an interesting way because it's one of the only things we have to be present with somebody to get that energy. And what she meant, of course, was get up close and personal and get to know them. I thought it was really interesting to say you get the sense of the smell of the
yeah,
person, the sense of the person. And I think you're absolutely right. I think probably we, as all business people, have to do. We get this instinct where we know that either we're on track and we're on our on our being our best version, but we do sense other people as well, and that instinctive drive can be, things honed over the years to a certain extent as well. So, okay, so in terms of not bringing this to a close just yet, but we've talked about some of the challenges and frustrations. What's the best thing? What's the best thing about being in business? What's the one or two things that you go, well, I loved my own business because of this, this, and this. Claudia, what would you say is an uplifting best thing for you?
so first of all, the sense of freedom,
Mm.
owning my life, owning my destiny, owning my present, my future,
Yeah,
but also the making a difference. That is
yeah,
huge for me, and that is why I started. I really wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and I love the creativity. So that is
mm,
beautiful. You don't have to go when you have an idea. You just try it out. You don't have to go to several layers of corporate hierarchy to get something approved. No, you approve it yourself
yeah.
because you run this. So this I find really, yeah, this I find really uplifting. And if it doesn't work, then okay, then you try something else. And so this is definitely a freedom of choice that you don't necessarily have in a corporate environment.
And I think for me, I think it's a similar sort of thing. I think something that was said to me by somebody else was they have the freedom to succeed, but also the freedom to fail without the
Yeah,
consequence of being beaten up by the boss or this sort of thing. Taking the risk and as you say, trying something, doing something else. It's all okay. You win in the end, but the freedom to sort of fail and try stuff out is powerful as well. So, fabulous. Neil, for you, the best thing about what you do as a business
Well,
owner.
I've learned so much from my mistakes, so I'm just going to carry on making mistakes. Is that
There you go.
okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
But
think the same as Claudia. The
yeah.
freedom is pretty good. The self-determination, I think, is
Mm,
probably top. The self-determination to run your own race, swim in your own lane, whatever you describe. You're setting goals that are yours, and you can strive towards them, not building somebody else's fortune. Because if you leave it to other people to look after your interests, get what they've got in mind for you, well, not very much indeed. So it really is a case of that sense of being in the driving seat. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're instantly going to be richer or what have you, but I think in terms of fulfillment, it just feels a better. Maybe this is just a time in humankind when that fulfillment is that we work for ourselves. If we'd been in the 14th century, would we be a freelance farmhand? I don't
Mm.
know, but there's never been a better time for us to take charge of the way in which we conduct ourselves. And I think it's great that people are taking advantage of that.
Yeah. I think an interesting point you make as well. There's a lot of, I think, myths out there of you see these people with the influences with on the private jet and the Rolls Royce and the Ferrari, this sort of thing. And by the way, there's a studio in the Czech Republic where you can hire it for the day, and they have a mock jet and a car, and you can do your photo shoot there, then you leave, and then you can anyway. So it's not all true, but I think the currency of success isn't only money. I think for any of us, the currency of our success and achievement is contribution, adding value, fun, engagement, freedom, flexibility. And I found if I can add enough value to other people, the money sort of looks after itself. That has to be the
Mm.
focus. But there's several currencies of success, one of which is money. But I don't think it's for any of us. I sense not our primary focus. We focus on doing good things for the people as well. So
There's
okay,
quite a good analogy about sort of a sailing boat where the money keeps you afloat, but
yeah.
it's not the wind that's in your sails.
Oh,
It's not going to propel you along, And I love that analogy because
nicely put.
I think it's true. You do need it. You've got to stay afloat. Of course, you've got to stay afloat.
Yeah,
But actually, to drive yourself forward in life, you've got
yeah,
to find something else to be doing.
absolutely. Great analogy. Okay, to start to bring this to a sort of a gentle close, top three tips. People listen to this recording, they're obviously hopefully intrigued, either on their journey, starting their journey. Just the top three tips that you would give to somebody considering or starting out. What would Claudia, what would your top three tips be for people starting the journey?
So first tip is can you afford it? Can you afford to survive the first year? So you must be financially savvy, and you must have a solid base that carries you.
Yeah.
Second, think about profit, and even if you're in a relationship and your husband or wife pays all the bills, you need to think about profitability. You
Yeah.
need to think about how you run this. And the third one is talk to people. Get
Hmm.
people's opinions. Don't do it alone. That's a mistake I made. I did talk to people, but I wanted to do it all alone.
Yeah.
Got a good experience. So get involved, build a network, talk to competitors, talk to people in a different field, but get a reality check.
Fabulous. Excellent. Good advice. Thank you. Dr. Neil Hillman, coming towards the end. Just to
Um,
reinforce, just to reinforce.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. Um, so I read a book by Alan Sugar, and
Mhm.
think what you will of Alan Sugar, he is what he is. But I can tell you that there is one piece of advice that he gave that utterly transformed my life.
Mhm.
Uh, and that was get your home life sorted out. You'll never succeed in
Mhm.
business if you haven't got your home life sorted out. And I
Mm.
can absolutely, absolutely say that that would be my number one tip, full stop.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the second one is to live in honesty. And
Hmm.
by that, I mean in the work that you're doing, the work that you want to be doing. Is this really what you want to be doing? I feel
Mm.
passionately. It's not a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
You kind of need, we're not put on this earth, in my opinion, to suffer and
Mm.
to stay doing something that's creating misery for us. So have a good look and see what is it that you would really like to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then when you do it, just the really basic thing of legal, decent, truthful, honest, the things that, the guidelines for advertising, just conduct yourself in an honorable way.
Mm.
And it will pay dividends because whatever industry you go into, it will be quite a small industry.
Mm. Yeah.
The industry that I'm in is international, but
Sure.
actually it's pretty small. And I've worked with the same people probably for 30 years now because I know, like, and trust them. But
Mm.
most of all, I can trust them. I could trust them implicitly. And there's a thing that they say, if you swim with sharks, don't complain when you get bitten. And our industry is full of sharks, I promise you. But
Yeah.
they tend not to stick around for long, not for
Mm.
long. So
Yeah.
those would be my three tips.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I'm gonna chirp in as well with three, I think, because I think it's my experience as well. And I think the first one would be get busy. Don't think too much. Don't wait around. Don't do your business plan and everything like that. I think, Claudia, just get out there, meet people, shake the tree. You're gonna kiss some frogs and that sort of thing, but get really visible, get really active with it. It's part of the first one. Second one, I think, is keep your promises. I think that's for all of us, but it's an obvious thing for most people, I think, is do what you say, keep your promises and add value. But I do see a number of people that they sort of overhype themselves. They make the promise and they just can't deliver, and that just damages reputation. So ruin the reputation business. And the final one, very simple one that I was taught donkeys years ago, is be on time or be early. Always be punctual, 5 minutes early, whatever it is. I knew that this conversation will start a little bit earlier on time because of who we are. But yeah, just be on time. It's a simple rule that stands out from the crowd a little bit as well. So those are my top tips as well. So okay, so Neil, just to finally wrap up for you, thank you for your time and your stories and your engagement. It's been fabulous as always. How do people connect or contact or reach out to you to find out more about what you do, ask you some questions, or engage in your product? How do they do it? What's the best way of contacting you?
Very simple. There's a contact form on drneilhillman.com. I'm happy to chat to anybody about anything. My book, Sound for Moving Pictures, is on Amazon,
Mm.
and I'm happy to sort of chat through with people and how they might be able to implement that.
Fabulous. Excellent. Thank you. Claudia, I'm guessing that this lovely QR code over what is your left shoulder on my screen is a good start point. But how can people who want to either learn more about what you do, how you do it, and engage? What's the best way of getting in touch?
Yeah, you can always get in touch through my website, luxdates.lu. And I'm very active on social media. Send me an email, info@luxdates.lu. Or simply scan the QR code. And my book, 24 Ways to Meet Your New Girlfriend, is also on Amazon, soon available as an audiobook. And yeah, and I'm happy to chat to people and uh, just see where they are in their journey and what they might need.
Fabulous. I mean, maybe I think maybe the tip number four. I'm just thinking aloud now for all of us is going to be get a book published. Be published is a good tip. So yeah, we're also publish that, which is fabulous. All right. Neil, Claudia, thank you. I've really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Time has flown. We've been
Mm.
doing this. This has been a 3 hour podcast. No, it hasn't. We've been about an hour, which I think is incredible. So thank you for that. It hasn't seemed like it. Hopefully for the audience as well. So from me, thank you for participating. Thank you everybody for listening, watching. Please get in touch with Neil, get in touch with Claudia, and of course, get in touch with me if you'd like to. Next one will be coming out. It's a monthly series we're doing, so we'll put it up onto YouTube and circulate around social media. In the meantime, as it is now, have a fabulous Easter weekend, Neil, Claudia, as you do as well. I am, as you probably know, we're finishing off the walk-in wardrobe, living the dream. How exciting is that? But have a fabulous weekend. I'll see you both real soon. But again, finally, thanks for participating and see you again real soon. Bye for now.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.